And I was muted. Okay, perfect. Hi everyone. How's it going? Hopefully you're enjoying GHW. Hello, hi. Yep, let's go. Hello. It feels good to be back, definitely. Uh, so I hope you all are excited today for learning Python. Okay, so let me just reduce the background volume a bit. Nice music, just too loud. Yep, I think that's good. So I hope you all are excited to learn Python today. And that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with very basics of Python. So we are going to go over like different data structures, the different data types in Python. So we'll go over what integers, float, boolean, what are they, what am I talking about? We'll go over all of those things. And we'll go over the different options that are available inside those data types. We'll make some small inline projects, and then we'll also make some big projects. Okay, so that is the goal of this stream. Okay, so if you have never done Python before and you want to get started, well, this is the place to do it. Okay, so let us start. But before that, let me first share the registration link if you haven't registered already. Okay, so here's the registration link. And once you have registered, I'm going to go over all the various things that you need to do. And I am going to look over the chats now quickly. Python, yeah, it's way easier than Java. Yep, definitely. Are we going to use Replit? Yes, we are. And I'm going to talk about it, what it is, how it works, and all those things. Music is too loud. I have reduced the volume. Hopefully that's good. Mic is cutting. Okay, I think it should be fine right now. Oh, love the excitement. Okay, so without any further ado, I hope you all have registered, of course. Okay, so I think that was good enough wait time. Now let's begin. And where are we going to do the coding? So we are. Uh, I will go away from the screen in a moment when we actually start coding, but right now just bear with it, please. So where are we going to do the coding? So we are going to use a platform called as Replit. Now I love Replit because it just takes away the hassle of uh, installing your own things, creating your virtual environments, and all those problems that come along when you start building code, writing code. Okay, as a beginner, you should not be focused on the internals of how this works. You should be focused on, hey, I write something, does it work? Which is why I love Replit in that sense. Also, it takes away all the time that is spent in resolving issues, local issues like, oh, my Python is not getting installed. I cannot install this. I cannot install that. That is not running. All those hassles go away. I can quickly show you what you have to do here. And if you are stuck somewhere, you can actually share your REPL with me. And then we can kind of like, I can look at it and resolve any issues that you are having. Okay. So that is why I love Replit. And I've shared a link in the chat. It's very simple. If you don't have an account on Replit, all you have to do is go over to that link. Once you go over there, then you have to sign up. Now, signing up is pretty simple. Okay, you just have to do sign up with either Google or GitHub, and it's like one click thing, and you will definitely get signed up very quickly. Now, if you see all my repls, so all GHW repls, I have done nearly everything on Replit. I have done Python, I have done React, I have done Node.js, and even basic HTML, CSS. It's just that good. Okay. So I hope you all create an account on Replit, and that way you can also follow along with what I'm doing. Now I'm going to move away from screen so you can totally focus on Replit, and yeah, just look at the screen, check it out what we have there. I have increased, like zoomed in a bit, so everything should be visible now. So once you have created an account, you will be on homepage. Okay, once you are on homepage, this now, let's start going around. So we have to create a Python environment. And how do you create a Python environment in Replit? Well, there is a templates section. Okay, once you go into templates, you will find templates for different languages. So there is Python, of course, which we are going to use, HTML, CSS, Node.js, C++, C, Java, C Sharp, Bash, and so many more. Okay, like there are so many templates that you can use. Now we are going to go with Python. Now, if you don't see Python here, like as the first language, don't worry. What we are going to do is we are actually going to go on this search templates option, okay, right here, and just search for Python. Once you search for Python, there will be multiple templates. Anything that has this yellow check mark, I don't know what it looks like in light mode, but in dark mode, it's yellow. That is kind of your verified template. Okay. So we know that this template is good. This template is good. It's verified and it's published by Replit company itself. So we can go with any of these. We are going to go with the very basic one, the first one. Okay. So select that, click on that, let it load. And now we have to click on this use template. 42.6 million people have already used this template. I think I have used it quite a few times. So I am a small, significant number in this big number, definitely. Now, what is going to be the name? So now, the name of this template could be anything, whatever you want. I am going to ensure that it denotes what I'm going to do. So Python MLH GHW beginning Python. Okay, learn Python basics. Okay, so there's a name of a template, of course, and there's the description so that you are sure what this thing does. Okay, what what projects are you building inside this. Now we can click on use template. You can make it like, let's say, public or private. I will keep it private for the moment, and then I'll show you how you can make it public. So click on use template, wait for a second or so, and let it generate everything. Okay, once it has generated everything, you will see main.py, package manager something. There's config files, but the main.py would be empty. Okay, so main.py would be empty. Now I'm going to wait here for a couple of seconds, let people catch up, and hopefully you all reach this stage. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Okay, perfect, done. Books are fast, that is good. Okay, now moving on. We are not going to write, okay, let's write the most simple thing ever when you start building any project, right? We are going to write hello world. So how do we do that? We can do something like print to print something on the console, which is right here. Okay, on the right hand side you will see console. If you don't see it, let's say that you don't see console or shell or anything here, it's empty for you. You can go onto this tools section on the left hand side, and you can just scroll down. You'll find console where C is. So C console. When you click on it, it opens, and you can drag it and drop it at any part of the screen so that it takes up the space that you want it to take. Similarly, open shell. So click on it and it will open, and you know how to you can drag it and drop it wherever you want. So now let's write something. Yep, we are going to write hello world, but we'll change it a bit. We'll write hello GHW. Okay. Once you do that, well, it is pretty obvious what you have to click to run this Python replit. Okay. So just click on this big orange button, and I think it is also green sometimes. Whatever. You see the run button, just click on it. And on the right hand side, lo and behold, we have hello GHW. Okay. And if you run it multiple times, there you go. So I hope you all have reached till this stage for sure. Okay. Just simple hello GHW. Also, while people are doing that, let me share you the Python documentation. So that is one really good place to find documentation about different Python methods, different Python data types. You don't have to look at it, but this is for, let's say, future reference. Now, coming back, I want to clear this console. There is this clear history button right there. You can click on it and it will clear away the history. And then you have to go on to shell. Okay, this is very important because the initial Python codes that we write, we are going to write it in the shell. Now, what is shell? If you are coming from a Windows environment, then it is basically your CMD. Okay? And if you're coming from, let's say, Linux environment or Mac environment, it's a terminal. And we can write Python. If you have Python installed on your machine, then you can write Python code on your terminal. For, let's say, a Mac environment, okay, for Apple environment, MacBooks, Python comes pre-installed. So, you don't have to initially install it. You can actually start writing code on your terminal. But for Windows, you do have to install it. So, but I'm not going to go over that process of installation and everything. We are going to do everything on Replit for today. So please make sure that you open shell, okay, not console, shell. And what you have to do is write Python and hit enter. Okay. So once you have done that, you will see that Python has been loaded in the shell, and you will see these triple uh, arrow signs. Okay. So that now this is where we can write actually Python code. Now let's start with the very basic. Let's start with addition of two numbers, right? So I can see there is 3.10.11. My Python version is 3.10.11. Is this the same? It should be same for everyone because we all use kind of the same template, but just want to confirm. Is it 3.10.11 for everyone? Yep. Okay. I mean, it should be like Python 3.10 and the minor version doesn't matter. So this is the 3 is called as the major version. The 10 is called, or 10 you can say, it's called as the minor version, and the 11 or the 11 is the patch version. Okay. So the major version of Python that we are going to use is Python 3, and the minor version would be 10, and we don't care about the patch version number here. So addition of two numbers, well, that's going to be pretty easy. 3 plus 10 is going to give me, let's say, 13. You can hit enter and it will print the results to the console. Patch version is for bugs. Not really. You wouldn't say always bugs. Uh, you can have patch version for features as well. Let's say someone started building a feature and they wanted to say that, okay, Python should take in semicolons. Python does not. Okay, just by the way, Python does not take in semicolons, but let's say someone wanted to add that. You don't have to do a release. When, let's say, you release 3.10.10 and I want to just add that thing, I can do a patch version and release that. That's okay. This is called semantic versioning, right? Yep, it is called a semantic versioning. Now, the semantic versioning, there is an organization, semver.org. They also have a very nice website. So it is a standard that they tell you to follow. You can find all about that on this link here. Like they tell you that, when should you do the major version, when should you do minor version. And yes, patch versions most of the times would be for compatible bug fixes. Sometimes someone does a feature release, it's totally on the person, but follow what the guidelines say because then everyone's happy. Okay, no one has to assume. Okay, so that's addition of two numbers. I can add more than two numbers, of course. Okay, and that is the very basic. Now these numbers, what are they called? So these numbers in Python are called as integers. Now, along, if you have your whole numbers, then that is your integers. Now you can have negative integers as well. So I can say minus 3 plus, uh, let's say 10. That should give me 7, right? So these are called as integers. So you can have negative integers, you can have positive integers, you can also have 0 because I said it's whole number, right? So that's your integer. Now what about decimal numbers? So decimal numbers in Python are called as floats or floating point numbers. So I can do something like 3.1 plus 7.9 and that gives me 11.0. Okay, so this is called as floating point numbers. So integers, floats, two data types we have learned already. Now, what about true or false? Okay, how do we say that something is true or false? Well, there's something called as Boolean. Okay, and to write Boolean, you just, let's say, you can do true with a capital T or false with a capital F. Okay, so that is called as Boolean. But typing in true and getting the same result back, typing in false, getting the same result back, doesn't make sense that much, right? So can I do something which will give me true or false? Can I do some operation that will return me true or false? Well, turns out you can. You can do, let's say, something like greater than or less than and see what's the output of it. So if I say that 3 is greater than 9, Well, it's false, definitely. Okay, 3 is not greater than 9. If I say minus 3 is greater than minus 9, well, that is true. If you have learned about Cartesian number coordinates, you know that minus 9 would be more on the left, minus 3 would be comparatively on the right. Okay, from minus 9. So this statement becomes true. So you can use the Boolean operations by, let's say, for comparing two numbers, comparing more than two numbers, you can do that. So isn't double better than float? Now that's an interesting question. Uh, Depends on what you want to use it for. And yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely depends on what do you want to use it for. And I don't think Python explicitly has doubles, right? It's only it only has float. So double is more of a Java thing. Okay, so double is more of a Java thing. Python only has floats, but in Java again, uh, it depends. You don't really have to use double for everything. Okay, so now I want to clear this whole thing out. So I want to move away from my terminal. How can I exit from here? You can just do exit, down braces, and hit enter. And that will take you out of Python terminal. And you can clear the shell by typing in clear and hitting enter. So we learned about different, at least three data types there. We learned about integers. We learned about floats. We know that double does not exist in Python. We learned about booleans, and we also saw comparison, right? So we know we can compare and get the result as a boolean, compare numbers and get results as booleans. So all that is good. Now let's come back to our main.py file. Okay, so this is where we are going to write more code. Now there are more data types left, like so many data types left, but let's move towards some basics. So what are those basics going to be? So one data type that I have not talked about is strings. Okay. So if you remember this print hello GHW. Okay. If you have to print, like let's say hello GHW, we actually wrapped it in this double inverted commas, right? So this double inverted comma that explicitly means strings. Okay. Let me look at the chat. In gist, there's nothing. At least we have three types here. Well, that's not true, right? You have the types. You just don't have type definitions. There's a big difference between those two. So when in, let's say, uh, yeah, even in Python, if I want to define like Python and for JavaScript actually, you don't have type definitions. So you can't explicitly say that, hey, this is an integer. Okay, we will talk about more about it. But yeah, when we come to it, types exist in both the languages, just the type definitions don't exist. And yeah, we'll talk about it. But let's start with strings. So this double inverted comma around the hello GHW, that is nothing but string. Okay. Now we can have another string with single inverted comma, and Python supports that. So hello MLH, single inverted comma. I'm going to go over to console and click on run. See, both of them get printed on the console. So that basically means that, it doesn't matter whether you want to use double inverted or single inverted. You can use either. What if I want to use both? Can I do that? So if I have, let's say, double inverted comma, and I say hello, and I also want to put MLH in this, like MLH is highlighted, double inverted. If I do this and I try to hit run, it says invalid syntax. Perhaps you forgot a comma. No, I did not forget a comma. What I forgot was you cannot have something like this existing, because when Python starts to read it, it thinks that hello is the first string and this empty double inverted is the second thing. Okay. And that's where it gets confused. It's like MLH is somewhere in between, but it's not a string and it's just there. Why is it there? And it gives us error. Now, there are multiple ways to resolve this. The easiest would be wrap the outside in single inverted comma and the MLH in double inverted. Now, if you hit run, this is what you get. Yeah, like when we start working more, we'll learn about escape sequences and everything, but simple solution is the best solution. One of the simplest solution is that if you want to highlight a word with double inverted commas, wrap the outside string in single inverted comma, and you get the result, right? So clear the history, and now we learned something about string, but we are going to learn more. We are going to learn loads more about strings. So let me delete everything that we have there and let's start again. Now, before we learn about strings, we need to learn about variables. Now, one of the most common way to learn about variables is saying that variable is a box. I disagree. I wouldn't say it's a box, but for assumption, let's start with that. Okay. So now, how do you define a variable? Now, variable is going to be a single letter, a word, like a letter and a number combined. It could be anything. Okay. So I'm going to say greeting, and that is going to be my variable. It does not have double inverted commas around it, so that means it needs a value. Now, greeting is going to be, let's say, hello. Then we are going to create another variable, user, and we'll say GHW. And we are going to say, create another variable. We'll call it A1. And the value of it is going to be ABCD, all caps, let's say. So greeting user A1. So you can have variables. So anything on the left that you see, that is a variable. Equal to, basically, single equal to denotes that you're going to assign it a value. So here for the greeting variable, we are going to put one single equal to and assign the value of hello. User, one single equal to, assign the value of GHW. A1 equal to, assign the value of ABCD. What else can we do? Let's create num and assign it a value of 45. Let's create a variable called as float and assign it a value of 78.9. Now let's print all of this. So to print all of them together, we can do something like greeting, comma, user, comma, a1, comma, num, comma, float. And let's run this and see what comes out. This is what we got. Hello, GHW, ABCD, 45, 78.9. Now, what is the data type? Let's go back to the whole data type scenario that I think people are discussing right now. Print type greeting. Let's run this. It is class string. What about print the type of, let's say, num? It is class in. Okay, type num is class in. What about the data type of float? It is class float. So as you can see, we don't have to explicitly define the type. Python infers the type from what you have assigned it. So if you have assigned it to a string, Python automatically knows that greeting is going to be a string. If you have assigned it a whole number, it knows that it's going to be integer. Negative, positive doesn't matter. If you have assigned it a decimal number, it automatically knows that it's going to be a floating number. And that's one good thing, right? You don't have to explicitly define the data type. It is inferred when Python starts running your code. Okay. And with that, we also learned about variables. Now, I'll show you two interesting things. The first thing, I'm going to delete the types. I want to add these two numbers. Okay, and I'm also going to actually delete this. So I'm going to delete all of it and print. I'm going to add num and float. So you remember the addition operation that we had performed? Also, let me clear the console. The addition operation that we had performed in shell. Let's see if you can do it with variables. And you can do it. And the final answer is going to be a float. Okay. So can I store the value of this variable in something? Of course I can. So I will create a new variable called as result, and I will say that please store the value of num plus float in this result. And now instead of doing num plus float inside the print, I can just do result. And let's run it. Still works, right? And what will be the data type of result? Should be float. Okay. So now we have learned what are variables, what we are going, like how can we store values in variables. We have learned how to see a type of variable. We learned that Python assigns the type while it is running, okay, like based on the assignment. And what else? Now we also learned addition, of course. We learned about different data types there. Let's move ahead. What if I want to add these two things, the greeting and user together? Can I do that? Let's try that. So I'm going to say result2 equals to greeting plus user. And let's print the result2. And there we get it. Okay. So here we have greeting plus user. Now, wait, this was a string. This was a string and they got added. Can we also subtract strings? Well, no, we can't. Okay. So string supports the addition operation. So the addition operation in string is just like saying that, hey, there is this first word, there's this second word, join them together. And it literally joins them together without any space in between or anything. What if I want to add that space in between? Very simple way would be to add it manually. So added a string and add a space there, and let's hit enter, and you see the difference. So previously it was hello GHW without any space in between, and now there is hello space GHW. So we know that strings also support addition operation, and if you want to add, let's say, space in between, you have to manually add it. You can create a variable, let's call it space, and that is nothing but a string with a space. Now you can do this, and let me run this, and it gives me the same result, right? So that is variables, addition of strings. Okay, we know that we cannot subtract strings, and now let's move ahead. Delete everything, and we will create a new variable called as OGstr, and we'll give it a value of hi, welcome to GHW. Okay, exactly like this. I'm also going to paste it in chat, and let me also go over the chat. So there's a question, did I say what am I going to teach? Yes. So I'm going to teach Python, but from the very basics. So we talked about data types in Python, some data types in Python, and now we are going to focus on strings. And once we go along, so this is part one. I also have part two scheduled today, and I have part three scheduled tomorrow. So we'll go over those three parts. Once we are done with the very basics, then we'll start building projects with, again, very basics of Python. And as and when we go along, we will learn different things about Python. Okay. Okay. I hope you have this OG underscore str. So this is from my variable OG str, OG string, and this is the value. Hi, welcome to GHW. Now I know that we can do addition in strings. We can't do subtraction in strings. But what are the other operations that we can perform in strings? It's very difficult to remember. There are two ways to look at it. Like, you can do, like, search the documentation and find out what are the other things that are supported by strings. So the other things could be, let's say, uh, well, string allows uh, adding some extra stuff towards the end of it. Okay, so you can add things to end of it. You can remove things from the string. You can remove, let's say, uh, I and comma from string. You can remove space from string. Like, there's so many things that string allows, but it's just very difficult to remember the things that are allowed by strings, the methods. Okay, so that's one way to remember that. What are the methods that are operable on string? Okay, can you, sorry, going through the chat, can you give us an outline of what we'll be learning? So as I said, that we'll be learning about basic data types, but I also have some projects planned. So we will, let's say, make a shopping list when we learn about list. We will make employee dictionary when we learn about employee, like dictionary data type. Uh, we will then make an inventory management system when we learn about conditionals and some other things. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. But right now, we are going to learn about strings and different methods that are available on string. So, if I want to get a list of all the methods that are available on a string, there's a Python command that allows me to do it. So, there's something called as dir, and you can think of dir as directory, and you can define, let's say, a data type inside it. So, dir and str. You remember class str previously? So let's print it out again. So that is basically the type of this variable. Okay. So type of OGstr, what is it going to be? And also let me comment this out. So you can add a hash to comment out something. So it is class str. So let's print out what all methods are available on this particular class str. And if I run this, you can see these are all the methods that are available. So the things that are with underscore, it's slightly different from the things that are not with underscore. And why is it slightly different? So this is kind of an internal method. Anything that is with an underscore, double underscores, it's internal method, and anything that is not without that is what you can directly use. I will show you examples of how you can directly use. We'll actually go over all of this. And I think you will get bored at one point, but it's just good fun and good understanding of what these things are. Now let's talk about this like quickly about internal methods. So I know that we can use the plus sign, the plus symbol to add two strings. But what happens internally? You cannot see plus symbol anywhere here. But we know that we can do that. So this underscore underscore add with double underscore after it, this is where what signifies the plus operation, that you can add two strings. You can check if a string contains something. Okay, there's an internal method that allows you to format something, but there's also an external method that allows you to format something. You can check the length of a string, like how long is the string. But there are multiple ways to do it. You don't have to use this double underscore. The len is a property available globally, which gives you a length of multiple things. It can give you a length of list, length of string. But what is list? We'll come to it. So we are not going to uh, focus on these internal methods right now. Let's talk about these external methods. And to talk about them, we are going to write it out and run our projects. So I'm going to clear the history of console, clear this random plus sign that I have, and let's begin. So first we'll focus on, let's say, case modification. Modification. So case modification. How can we change the casing of our outputs? So we can do something like, let's say, print. Remember our variable OGstr, and if I do a capitalize on it and run it, if you see here, the hi with H capital and I, welcome with W capital, and GHW all caps changes to this. So the capitalize, as you can understand, is going to capitalize the first letter, the first alphabet in your string, and make everything else small. What if I want to make everything small? Like everything. So I can do OG underscore str dot lower, and let's run that. So now everything is lowercase. Now there's a question. Is internal method similar to private methods? Private methods as in private methods in Java? So private methods in Java is something that is not accessible outside of a class, but Python internal methods are accessible outside. Like example, let's say addition. We know that the add property exists on both string and it actually also exists on integers. Okay, going slightly off track, there of int. Let me print this out. So add method is exists on integer, and we know that it also exists on string. We saw that. So it is accessible outside of this particular class. Okay, moving on. So to make everything lowercase, we know what we can do. Uh, what if we want to make everything uppercase? Well, no guessing there. If everything lower is dot lower, well, everything upper would definitely be dot upper, right? So there, we can capitalize basically everything. Now, what if I want the alternate values to be capital? Okay, so I want the W to be capital, I want the T to be capital, I want the G to be capital, and everything else small. And from the high, I want H to be capital. So there is a method dot title which will capitalize the first letter after space. So let me test this. If I remove space from here, from I comma welcome, and if I hit this, oh, this is already capitalized. Let me make it lowercase. So even that is capitalized. So now the question for you all is, how does Python know what exactly to capitalize? Okay, let's join 2 to it as well. The 2 does not get capitalized. What's happening there? So that is kind of what you have to focus on. So comma, that makes the next letter capitalized. Space, that makes the next letter capitalized. Now there is an answer here at the first letter of word. How does Python know what is the word? Okay, the other answer is it because of comma? Well, we saw it does it for comma as well as for spaces. Okay, there's no comma here. So let me let's say this is GHW. It still makes it capital. So there's no comma there. Maybe comma is interpreted as space. So if I do hi full stop and welcome with W small, what should happen? That should not get capitalized, but it does. So now that is a question for all of you. It's just not only comma. We know that it also does it for full stops. Okay. So figure it out. How does Python know what exactly to capitalize? What is Python doing internally? And we will kind of come back to it later. Okay, now moving on. Let's quickly print the length of our string. So length of OGSTR, it is 18. Okay. If there is a space, it will either capitalize the word until it hits another space. Uh, so there's something here that the title method ignores punctuation. Then how does it know which word again to capitalize, which one to not capitalize? Okay, I think I've started kind of big question here. But moving on. So now we know the length of this string is 18. Let's count it out. So 1, 2, 3. The space is also counted. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. So remember, the space is also counted when it is counting the length of the string. It counts spaces, it counts punctuation marks. Everything is one unit. Okay. So that's like just for remembering purposes. Now there is an interesting thing in Python. And that interesting thing is I want to center this. So now we move on towards alignment. Okay, let's focus on the alignment of characters. Let's say you want to make it central. I guess it interprets the punctuation as white space, so the next word's first letter will get capitalized. Okay. Uh yeah, I'm going to like not go over it, but it's a good food for thought or good question that needs an answer. How does Python know what exactly to capitalize? And also check if your answer is perfect or like correct or not. Okay, so I'm going to just add some more punctuations and let's see. So this is our OG string now. Added a dash here, added an underscore here, and let's see what does the print title return. Also, let me make everything lowercase. And let's hit enter. And the space here after like the first letter is capitalized. The welcome after space it's capitalized. The T after dash is capitalized. The G after underscore is capitalized. Okay. So yeah, just yeah, I'm going to remove the dash and underscore. Yeah, just find it out. Search for it definitely. That what is happening behind the scenes, and this is what we have right now. Let's move on to the alignment. I don't want to spend too much time here, but do find out an answer for it. Okay, do find out what is happening. So let's come back. So I want to, let's say if this was printed out somewhere and I want to center it, okay, and I don't know how many letters is this going to be. So in Python, you can center something by saying that the total length of this whole thing should be, let's say, 34, and add star around it. So now if I run this, this is what happens. It adds star around it, and this is kind of centered. So let's count the letters. So I can actually, can I store this in a variable? Let's say result equals to this whole thing, print the result, and I'm also going to print the length of result. I'm going to comment this first one, and let me clear this, and let's run this. So initially the length of the string was 18. We told it that make the length of the whole string 34 and add star around it. What if I tell it that make the length of the string 19? We know it's already 18. So how many stars would it add? Just one star to the left of it. Okay. What is the question? Yes, please stop with the caps. So the question is, uh, how does Python know, like in this particular method, the OG string dot title method, how does Python know what exactly to capitalize? Okay? And we have tried basically all the punctuation marks, like not all the punctuation marks, but we have tried significant punctuation marks, like full stop, we know comma, dashes, underscores. Python is able to capitalize any word, the first letter of any word, okay, make it capital. That's what we're talking about. And how does Python know? No worries. Okay, so the dot center property, as you can understand, you can tell it that I want the whole thing to be of this particular length, let's say 20, add star around it. Now when you say 20, then it knows that automatically inside this is 18 and I have to make it 20. So it adds star to on left and right. So that is why it's called as a center property. Okay. So the center property, it checks the left and right and tries to balance it out based on how many letters do you have. Got it? So let me remove all this and let's go back here. Yeah, perfect. So now we know what the center property does. Centers the text that you have given, and also you can add anything. It does not have to be star. You can add, let's say, spaces. And hey, this is centered again. Uh, what if I enter something less than the original size? Well, let's try it out. The best way to learn is to try it out. So 16 and star does not do anything. It says your original string is greater than what you're asking me to do, so I'm not going to touch it. Right? Perfect. So now it has been an hour right now. We have still a few more things to cover in strings. Okay, so there's like, what if I only want to add on stars on the left hand side or only on the right hand side? How do I count the letters and blah blah blah? So we will come back to it, but let's take a quick break in between. Let's stretch ourselves, have some water, uh, just relax a bit, and then we'll come back to it. Okay. Now we're still going over the question. Trust me, I'm going to have so many questions for you all, kind of homeworks, but I love the spirit that is here, that you all are focusing on learning those things. But at the same time, I would also quickly ask you to, or request you, please, to uh, like now focus on this. But remember the question, note it down, and maybe at the end of today's session, go and find answers to those questions. Okay. So sorry for doing this. I will give you questions, but let's not just focus on the answer to those questions. We should also move along, move ahead. So thank you so much, but once again, everyone, for your dedication here for finding answers. Love that. Let's take a 10-minute break. I think that should be good. And then we'll come back and continue with what is strings. And then we'll move on to list. Okay? Yeah, perfect. That is so good. Thank you. Hello, folks. I'm back. A bit early, I know, but it's okay if you're on break. Just here to see any questions that needs answering. Uh, Let me also reduce the volume a bit. Yep, I think that's good. Uh, okay. Oh, nice. Dinoran is here. It's okay. It's okay. It's not. It's okay to not be back. We still have a few minutes left, definitely. Okay. So, wow, a lot happened when I went back and had water. Okay, no worries. Now that we are back, we will start working and yep, this is amazing. Ah, Lord. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's move on. So I think everyone's back right now. We are all at a good position. We had our question. Now let's continue building. So, not building, let's continue learning first, and then we'll go on to building, right? So, what's next? So, now we learned about center, okay, how it can be used to align things in Python to centers. What if I want to only add, let's say, left justified string? Okay, so only fill up stuff on the left hand side and only fill up things on the right hand side. Now this is going to be a bit confusing. Why? Let me show it to you. So og underscore str dot ljust. Okay, and I'm going to say again 24 and add, instead of stars, add, let's say, 0. Okay, let me print this. Wait, what? So ljust printed zeros on the right. Let me try the rjust. 24 and let's say hash. So what's happening here? rjust actually printed the characters on the left. So if you have understood it, well and good. If you haven't, so what ljust does is it left justifies the main string. The og string goes on the left, and any spaces, like, we have the og string of only 18 characters, right? And we want to convert it to be 24 characters. So it left justifies the string and adds whatever special character you have told it on the right hand side. And the rjust does the exact opposite. It right justifies, let me clear this and run it. It right justifies the original string, and any spaces that have been left, any spaces that are remaining are on the left hand side are filled with the special character that you told it. So you can actually add just, let's say, spaces. Okay, and look at this. There's space on the left, there's space on the right. Normally you will by default have, of course, space on the right hand side, right, in a sentence or anything. But if you want to fill it with some special characters, you can do that. Now there is this problem. The fill character must be exactly one character long. So you cannot do this. What if I make it one character long, by doing something like this? Can I like try and cheat it? No, you can't. Okay, it needs to take one space exactly, so just this much, and you can do that. Now there's a question: is printf available in Python? Printf, it sounds something that I've heard. Is it from C? Yeah, it's from C, right? Yeah. Java has what? SOUT, system out print ln, and system out print. Okay, now the question here is more like, what if I want, I'm assuming the question here is more like, what if I want something to go on the next line? So you can use something like \n. We'll talk about it later. We'll also talk about, yeah, f strings that comes. So we talked about alignment. Okay, so center, l just, r just. There are more things, but I'm not going to go over everything right now. Now let's move on to the next one. Searching and counting. Okay, how do you search something in string and how do you count something in string? So if I want to count something, so og underscore str dot count, and tell it ask it how many times does e come in this. It comes exactly 2 times. Does it? There's e here and there's e here. Okay, yep, I can agree. Uh, how many times does el come in? Do you think that will give me an answer? Yes, it does. So el comes in the string just once. Okay, so you can exactly explicitly tell it that, hey, this is a character, like let me change the original string a bit. Hi, welcome to GHW, comma, hope you have a blast here, and just add some two, 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 something like that. It's like absurd string, but I wanted to count how many times the word two comes in. So let me clear this, run this, ignore the above outputs, but this is what we need to focus on. So 4 times. So there's 1 here, 2, 3, and 4. Now, another interesting food for thought. Can it count the number of spaces? So I've given it just a space. Let me clear this out. And let's see, can it count the number of spaces? Yes, it can. So there's 13 spaces apparently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here, 8, 9, 10, 11 right here, 12 right here, and 13. Okay, so you can also ask it to basically count the number of spaces. Got it? Now, one interesting, again, why should we count the number of spaces? Let's say you want to find the length of original string, but without the spaces. So you can first, like, one way to think about it is count the number of spaces, take the length of original string, subtract that, and you will know exactly how many characters, non-spaced characters, okay, non-space characters exist in the string. Can I also do, like, let's say, count the number of commas or count the number of special characters, let's say? count the number of commas, count the number of spaces. I can do all that and then just subtract it from the length of original string, right? So now I am going to remove all this. So that's one way. Okay, too many discussions going about formatting. Yes, we will get to it. Don't worry. So let me add this here, just so that we know what's happening there. And yep. Now, there's one thing that I'm not liking about it is I can see the output, but I don't know what it denotes. Like what method does it denote? So you can do something like this. I can take the word here, capitalize, and do this, lower, do this, and like if I do this, so the comma acts as a addition character. Okay, the comma acts as addition in the print statement, inside the print statement. So anything that's on the left, anything that's on the right, you can get it in the same sentence right here. Now this is where the next part comes in, which is how do I go onto a new line? So you can do a \n, and that will then take things on the next line. So capitalize in the first line and this on the next line. But by default, there is this space. Okay, so the comma, it actually adds a space. So even if I remove the space and do this, it will actually add at least one space to the left of the second thing, the second, let's say, string. So comma, when you use the comma operator, it acts as a plus, but it also acts as like plus space. Okay, so just remember that. And you now know how to make it on a new line. I am not going to add spacing here, let's say, and that will because well, this will automatically add spaces, right? So that's there. Now let me add this to everything. So upper, and this is like title. So that ways I actually know what's the output about, right? This is like length. What about this center thing? Not in this. We need to go inside here, comma. Comma and L just. Don't need space here. I don't know. I think it's out of habit. And this is my count. Okay, perfect. So now I will know for sure what does the output denote. So this is capitalized, this is lower, this is upper, this is title, this is length, this makes it center, left adjust, sorry, not adjust, left justify, right justify, and the count of what? Okay, so spaces in this case, but let's say count the number of E in this. Okay, count E. Right there, clear this. Count of E is 2. Got it. Perfect. Now it makes much more sense to someone who's looking at the output. Okay, moving on. What else is there? We can also ask Python to confirm whether a string actually ends with a particular character. Okay, so let me do that. OGstr dot ends with, and inside this I can say, does it end with the word GHW? And if I hit run, It returns me, what data type is it? Now there's a good question here. Is count case sensitive? Let me try that. Let us actually all try it. So welcome with a capital E and a small e. So there should actually now be, let's say, 3 E's. And let me run this. It says that the count of small e is just 2, which is correct, right? So it is case sensitive. Why? Because you explicitly asked it to find small e. So now, if I want to find all the e's, whether capital or small, what should I do? I can do two things. I can actually do dot lower and then count it. So make the whole string lower. So this would be the output, and then count the small e's in it. So let's try that. Does that run? Yep, now it does. Now it tells us that there are 3 E's because everything has been lower cased. And this thing, the first method, lower method, which you learned here, and the count method, which you were learning here, you did all of that on a single string. This is also called as method chaining. Okay, you are chaining the method. You're doing first thing, then second thing, then third thing, then fourth thing, whatever. You can chain the methods. So good question there, definitely. And we all learned something from it. Let's go back to the original. So we know that count is case sensitive, but at the same time, if you don't want to make it case sensitive, what you have to do is either like make everything lowercase, make everything uppercase, and then give it a letter. Lowercase is always more suited than uppercase. Okay. Now there's a question. Is it like subqueries? Subqueries as in SQL subqueries? Yeah, SQL subqueries. And let me think. No, I don't think so. Because in SQL subqueries, doesn't the second query run first and then the first query runs? If I'm not getting confused, the second query runs first and then the first query runs. Like the inner query runs first and then the outer query runs, right? In a subqueries of SQL. But correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, internal query runs first. But in this case, whatever is the left runs first. So it will not run count first and then lower, because that would not make sense. That, like, in that case, let's try it out. Let's make this a capital E and small e. And if I count first and then lower something, that's going to be a problem, because if the count happens first, it will return an integer, and then you cannot lower the integer. So I would say it runs from like kind of the left of this. Yeah, someone said yes, it's running from left to right in a way. The SQL runs, if you write the whole SQL subquery in one single line, then it runs from actually inner to outer. Okay, so in a way you can say it's running from, I would say in a way it's same, but it's also very different to it. Okay, but chaining of chaining of methods can be like the first thing runs, then the second thing runs, then the third thing runs, and you can write all of it in same line. Okay, coming back, ends with GHW. So this is ends with GHW, but now I need to make sure that this is single inverted. Remember? Because you cannot have two double inverted. Oops, I closed my console. So I'm going to find it from left here. Click on it. and then just bring it on the side. I can also make this smaller a bit. Yeah, much better I feel. Okay, so cow ends with GHW. True. But can I ask, oops, okay, what if I tell it that does it end with W? Yes, it ends with W. That is true. What if it ends with a capital W? Is it going to be a true or false? Anyone? Ah, I also should add with ends with capital W right here. Okay, false. Yes, it ends with capital W. False, definitely false, right? So that's also one thing to remember. And now I think you kind of get an idea of where Boolean comes into picture. Now ends with, like in a normal English sentence, it is like, does this sentence end with A? It can either be yes or no question. It's a yes or no question. So Boolean is, yeah, yes or no, right? So true or false. Okay, perfect. Now moving on. Uh, Fine. Can I find a particular thing? So let me just try it. OG underscore str dot find and find GHW. Now, what does find return? Now, this is also an interesting thing on Replit. If you hover over the method, it tells you what will be returned. It is going to return an integer. Okay, so let's try this out. This is the one on line number 19. It tells me 15. What does this 15 actually mean? Let's start from here. Okay, this is our original string. So find GHW, it returned me 15. So this is 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Isn't this 16? 16, 17, 18. So why did find GHW return me 15? Yes, the index starts from 0. Perfect. So the H, okay? So let's quickly try this out. Uh, Instead of hi, let's say this is the capital letter B. Okay, find B. It is at 0th index. Okay, so 0, the counting actually starts from 0. In strings, counting of the first letter starts from 0. But then, now the question is, if it starts from 0, why was the length actually the normal counted? So if you remember, let's say capital H and yeah, high, and let me clear this and let's run this. So capital H and find capital H right here. Okay. So capital H is at index 0. Got it. Length is 18. But if I start counting from 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, 17. So if I start counting from 0, there are only 17 characters, but the length is 18. So that's another difference that you will now have observed, that the length, okay, the length of a string counting. So the length method does the counting of natural numbers. It returns me like there are 18 characters because it starts counting from 1. But when we do this find method, it actually does a 0 based indexing. Okay, so one thing to remember. Now there's a question, I think we actually saw the answer to it. Find, let's say, capital B in this whole sentence. Can it find it? Let me run this. It returns -1 because it's not found. Now there's another interesting thing. If I do small h, So there is one small h here, there's one small h here. Which one will be returned? Oh, I should also change this to small h. 0. So only the first one, okay? The first h that is encountered is going to be returned. We can also do, let's say, e, small e. So there is one here and there's one here. So the first instance is returned. It says 5. So let's count it. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. Okay, so 5. Okay. So it always returns the index of the first occurrence. Yes, someone rightly said it there, that it always returns the first occurrence. And there's also a very good suggestion, if statement. We'll come to it. We'll learn about conditionals and then we'll try that out, definitely. Thank you so much. Uh, okay, so another interesting fact to learn there. Now, we don't have to, obviously, of course, always find a single letter. We can go for a word, which we have, I think, kind of actually seen, right? So find welcome. It is at position 4. And as someone rightly said, that you can actually wrap it in a if condition and return if this word is found, true or false, right? So this is going to be find, let's say, welcome, and going to add a comma right there. Now I need to wrap this in single inverted commas. Find welcome 4. Index. Now this is actually a starting index. Okay, always remember this is the starting index. So the word welcome in itself is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters long. But it starts at position 4. So if it starts at 4 and you also have the length of the word welcome, you will definitely know where does it end, right? What index does it end? So if there is ends with also, oh yeah, I forgot one thing. If there is ends with, does Python have starts with? Can someone quickly check that out? Like, and just, that's another homework, let's say. Okay. So if there is a ends with, does Python support something like starts with? Like starts with hi, starts with welcome, starts with something, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So we had find. We also have something called as index. Now things will start getting a bit confusion. Okay, there I did not understand that. Sorry. Uh, the pop-ups are short like flash, like it flashes. I don't. I'm sorry, I did not get that. Is it something with regards to what I did? And yep, starts with is there. Yes, it is. Thank you so much. I'm glad people are doing the homework. Love it. Okay, so dot index, and let's say index. Find the index of welcome. When we asked it to find the word welcome, it returned us the index. And when we say find like index, it again returns us the index. So what's the difference between the find method and index method? Let's quickly check it out. Okay, now I am going to change everything to capital B. And how can you do this multiple selection that I just did? On Mac, you can do Command and D. So Command D twice or thrice, how many ever times that character is there. So 1, 2, twice. And on Windows, you can do Control and D to select multiple occurrences. Okay, so let's try this out. Now there is this difference. So find B returns -1 if the word or the letter is not found. But the index actually raises an error. Okay, it says that you try to find the B, it raises a value error, substring not found. Oh, that one. It's basically like me holding it up. So how long do I hold it up? It's yeah, it's because of that. And I do it kind of sometimes by mistake because I'm going over it and just I don't know. My fingers taps twice and it's like flashing. Sorry about that. And sometimes I do it genuinely because I want to show, yeah, someone found an answer to something. That's it. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So this is the difference between the find and index. A find will give you the first occurrence of the letter or the word that you have asked it to find, and if it is not found, it will return, let's say, -1. But if you're using index, then it will give you an error. Now, what is good, what is bad, totally depends on what do you want to do. If you want to show an error, you can actually show this exact error to the user. It's just not that good looking. Or you can do some conditional checks, which we will come back to later. But yeah, just to show you. So the first find returns the lowest index of a substring or -1 if it is not found. And index, it returns the lowest index of a substring or raises a value error if not found. Okay, value error. Now there is one more thing that I kind of forgot to show you. Let's ask it to find E, but at the same time find E after index 6 and before index 12. And let's also try that here. So find and index. Let me also change that. I changed a few things. I hope you all followed. Basically made these two exactly same. And there you go. So if you do it without this 6 comma 12, let's say, it will return 5 because the first E of welcome is returned. But if you give it an index, like this is the starting, like start searching for the letter or the word after this particular index and before this particular index, then it will find the next occurrence. Also, if you don't define this, what happens? And here, if you, let's say, define this, okay, so you say start counting from 6 but before 7, let's say, what happens? Well, between 6 and 7 we haven't found any E. Also, if you don't define the end, it will go till the last of it. Okay, till the last of the length, the last till the end of the string. Like, you get the idea, right? So yep, that is another thing that I had forgotten to show you, but now you know. Oops. Let me see if it works. Yep, it does work. So moving on, what's the next thing? Okay, so when we run this particular thing, we know that the dot index returns me the first occurrence. What if I want to find the last occurrence of it? Okay, what is the last occurrence? So actually, two methods exist. We can do it in two ways. Uh, you can do R find or you can do R index. Okay, and why the word R? The R means the rightmost. Remember, it starts counting from left. So when we do R find, the one way to remember what R find does is it starts counting from the rightmost. Like what's the rightmost highest character in a way. So R find the E, let's say OG underscore str dot R find and E. Let me clear this out, run this, and R find of E returns me 10. Okay, and just find of E, if I remove that indexing, the find of E returns me 5. R find of E returns me 10 because it starts looking at it from the rightmost. If you ask for it to find, let's say, a letter that does not exist for R find, well, it's going to return us -1. Sorry, this also needs to be B in that case. But yeah, it will return us -1 because it hasn't found the highest B because that does not exist. So yep, that's one way. Similarly, you can also do R index. I'm not going to show that. But I hope you got it. What if we want to find the first character from the right? You mean you want to find W? Like want to find W or just check? You can try ends with W and it will return you true or false. Oh, you want to find where is W from the rightmost. So you can just do W. 17. Okay, moving on. Now we have done some searching and counting. Uh, what else? R find is for finding the index of a letter or a word, uh, but the last occurrence of it. Okay, last occurrence matters a lot. So if I change the spelling of welcome to welcome, then now there are three E's. In that case, it will still return me, like it will return me the highest index, that is 11. Okay. What else? Splitting of strings. Now this is interesting because this lays the foundation to lists. Okay. So splitting of string. So let's print that out. We need to split the string. So OG string dot split, and split it on what? Let's say I want to split it on spaces. Okay, wherever there is a space, split it on that space. And let's run this. So it returns this thing, hi, and there is a comma in this. Okay, so hi comma is one thing, welcome is one, two is one thing, and GHW is one thing, and it's wrapped in square brackets. And this is called as a list. Okay, it returns the split method is going to split it based on the separator that you give it. Okay, based on the separator that you tell it, and at the same time you can kind of tell it, uh, sorry, based on the separator that you give it, and it returns a list of it. Now if I want to split it on a comma, okay, just a comma, so in that case there is hi which is separated, and welcome to GHW with a space just before it is separated. Okay, so it's only split into two things. Why? Because there is one comma. So anything that's to the left of the comma is one thing in the list, and anything to the right of the comma, which includes the space, and after that, welcome to GHW, is the second thing in the list. So now you can use any separator. What if I use a dash? Okay, what if you use a dash? It returns the whole thing inside one single inverted, like there is only one thing inside this list, because this separator has not been found. The separator does not exist. Let me also show you a few more things. So there's comma, no space, and again a comma and no space. So this is my new original string. Comma with a space, comma, no space, comma, no space. Actually, underscore and no space. Okay, so this is my original string. Let me clear this out and let's run this. Well, okay, it's still not going to work because we don't have a dash, but now let's split on comma. So one thing, space welcome, and 2 underscore GHW goes right here. And underscore, if that we need to split it on underscore, well, it's very obvious now. So hi welcome to will be one thing I'm saying, and GHW will be another thing in the list. And that's what exactly happens. One thing, another thing, right? What if I want to split it from the right hand side? So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and do R split on, let's say, comma. And also do a R split on comma. Does not exactly make a difference here. Now I am struggling to find an example, but the idea of R split is to split it from the right hand side. But I need to think of an example where I can show it exactly. I'll search for it later. What's this? Okay, I'll search for it later. But yeah, just remember that R split actually starts splitting from the right hand side, and just the split starts splitting from the left hand side. Now let me think of what is an example which can show it very nicely. Maybe I'll find an example later. Oh man, what is this? Okay, let me remove this. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now you know about split function. Now let's actually store the value of this split function into a result, and let's print the type of result. It is a class list. And what is the length of this result? And also let's print result. Yep. Okay. So what is we know the type is list. This is the list result, and its length is 3. Now this is interesting because if you remember, the print, if I print the length of OG underscore str, sorry, length of OG underscore str, so the length of original string is 17 and the length of result is 3. Okay, so 3 because the high here is the first thing, or Yeah, this like one entity. The welcome is another entity, and this 2 underscore GHW is another entity, and that is how you have just three things in the list. And we will talk more about list, but I don't want to start it right now because we are actually nearing the end of our 2 hour session. And okay, let me see. There's too much discussion going on. Uh, okay, strip function. Okay, that is good. Oh, channel points. No worries. Uh, okay, so we understood that if you use the split function, you actually end up having a list. Now, list is more than just splitting strings. There are so many methods that exist inside lists. So let me just quickly show that to you. You know, if you want to get the list methods, you can just do like print out the directory of list, right? So let me run that. And these are the methods that exist in a list. And we are going to, in the second session, the part two of today's session, we are going to look over these methods of list. And we are also going to build a very simple list project. Okay. So I'm going to end this session. Any questions, anyone, other than channel points? Anything, anyone? Let me be back on stream. Yep, now you can see me. List and array are different in Python. So array does not exist in Python. Okay, it's called as list. But there is one subtle difference. So when you talk about arrays in, let's say, Java, an array in Java can store data of the same type. So you can have array of integers. It will only have numbers in it, integer numbers. Uh, you can have array of string. It will only have string things in it. But if you talk about uh, list in Python, you can actually have a list which has both. Okay, it has numbers as well as strings in the same list, in the same thing, in the same array in a way. So list is slightly different from array, actually a whole lot different. List is more towards array list in Java. Okay, if you are coming from Java background, then if you know about array list, so list is very more similar to array list in Java. Okay, it's similar to JS array. Yeah, it is. Yes. Okay. Now, when am I streaming next? I am streaming after an hour. So we'll take this hour's break, an hour long break, and then I will be back in like 1 hour later with part two of the stream where we will. Uh, ouch, sorry. Something got stuck there. Uh, yeah, we'll come back with part two of this stream where we'll talk about list and different list methods. So, like, what does this append do? What does clear do? What is copy or count or whatever, whatever? Okay, how does it work? And we'll see the output or the results of it here. And once that is done, then we'll talk about dictionaries. And in between, we'll also make a simple list project. Okay, very simple one called as shopping list. Okay, so any other question, anyone? Can we get access to the file? Yes, we can. So let me show you how you can publish yours later. So step one, you have to basically make it public and just click on this publish. Click on next, 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 next. and publish to community, and take this link and I can share it with you. It takes a bit of time to load sometimes. What's the difference between index and find? So kind of the same. It's the only the error that is the difference in a way, because when you ask find to find something, you tell find that find me the word welcome, it will return you the start index of it. Like the word welcome starts at index 4. But if you ask it to find capital B, it will return you -1, saying, oh, it does not exist. But if you use index.index and you ask it to find W, it will find you the first occurrence, return you 4, let's say, which is same as find. But if you ask it to find capital B, which does not exist, it will send you an error saying value error, substring not found. I hope that helps. Okay, any other questions before we take our 1 hour break, have some lunch, and be back? For me, it's lunchtime. Uh, so, really hungry. Okay, so if there are no more questions, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I hope to see you again in an hour. Okay, see ya. Bye bye.